How powerful is the Retroid Pocket 6, especially the 8GB version? The 12GB model is the perfect retro handheld for me. Less powerful than Odin 3, but more than enough for my needs. It has enough RAM to push the device in Windows emulation. But since that version is gone, the 8GB model is what we have left to deal with. Low RAM may have hampered it in some obvious use cases, but surprisingly, it still holds up well, even better than I expected. Lighter Windows games or 2D titles, there's almost no difference between the 12GB and 8GB models. Games like Coffee Talk, Stardew Valley, or even something like Cuphead run exactly the same. For games this light, the system don't need much RAM, so dropping from 12GB to 8GB doesn't change anything here. Even if you move up to slightly heavier games, the story mostly stays the same. Good old classics like GTA 5 or Need for Speed Rivals runs pretty well. The 12GB model has a bit more breathing room here, but the 8GB version still hits similar performance. You're still looking at around 40 to 50 FPS in GTA 5 with some tweaks, and older AAA games are playable without too much effort. Likewise, lighter Switch games also run fine in the lower RAM variant, but once you push beyond that, the difference becomes more clear. Even heavier titles like Pokemon or The Witcher 3 can hold around 30 frames per second most of the time. Now, the 8GB version can still run these games, but you will soon notice small stutters when new areas load. Sometimes the game pauses for a brief second, and with bigger open-world games, it can even crash after playing for a while. It's not constant, but it happens enough to feel frustrating. So while the lower RAM still runs okay, most of the time it feels a bit more limited. And then there's heavy Windows games. The 12GB version already struggles with Cyberpunk or Elden Ring, and that's not a RAM problem, it's just the chip hitting its limit. So even on the 8GB model, those games won't run well anyway. But for indie games, older titles, or lighter 3D games, both versions perform almost the same. One thing people don't talk enough about is storage. The 12GB model came with more internal storage, while the 8GB version is more limited. And for PC games, you often have to install them directly on internal storage for best performance. So you'll run out of space faster than you expect. Overall, I'd say 8GB model is still a very capable handheld. For PS2, GameCube, lighter Switch games, and a lot of small and old PC titles, it does the job without feeling weak. In most cases, you're getting close to the same experience as the 12GB, but it's not as flexible. The 12GB version gave you that extra cushion, especially for heavier Switch and Windows games. The 8GB model can still try those, but you'll run into limits faster. If your main focus is Windows gaming, especially around the Witcher 3 era, I'd still lean toward the Odin 3. It just has more headroom and handles those games with fewer compromises. And honestly, if you can stretch your budget a bit, a refurbished Steam Deck or even Legion Go S makes even more sense for that kind of use. But if you can keep your expectations in check and treat it as a retro-focused device first, the Retroid Pocket 6 8GB model is still a solid handheld that does a lot right.